Hi, my name is Richard Wilson, and today in this short video, I'll tell you a life-changing story about how I figured out how to easily create a portable, off-grid home oasis so ingenious it has the power to permanently provide any family around the world with an endless supply of the freshest, high-quality, clean water you've ever tasted for pennies on the dollar. In fact, over the past year, over 57,347 people have also already successfully used the very same technique to get over tragic milestones such as hurricanes, snowstorms, or floods, based on a technology that the military from countries including Israel, India, the UK, and the US already use to make safe, clean, and cool drinking water out of thin air, even in the desert. Not only can this simple device give you up to 60 gallons of water per day to last through the centuries-long drought NASA and top universities are warning has just begun, but it can ameliorate your utility bills all year long. I'm sure you're already intrigued and you want to know all about how this system works. Honestly, it's like nothing you've ever seen, and in a few minutes from now, you'll be outraged you've put your family's life in the hands of FEMA, the government, and the greedy water corporations that make the cards these days. So you absolutely need to watch this short presentation today while it's still up. I don't know how much longer I'll have this free presentation online, so watch this right now while you still can. Before we continue, let me tell you who I am and how it all started. As I mentioned before, my name is Richard Wilson, and I'm a 46-year-old, third-generation farmer living in California's Imperial Valley on the outskirts of a town called Salton City. Imperial County is one of the most difficult places to live in the entire country. Temperatures in the valley frequently rise to over 100 degrees, and water shortages due to droughts in the area are something that I've been dealing with my entire adult life. And while I've certainly never liked how our officials are handling the situation by introducing laws that force us to cut our usage or by raising the prices for something that everybody should afford, like having a clean, non-disturbed water supply without restriction. However, I'd always just accepted that that's the way it is. In the summer of 2015, however, all of that changed when what had, up until then, always been a nuisance became a gut-wrenching crisis that drove me to tears. We were entering our fourth year of drought, a recurring nightmare for those old enough to remember the devastating drought of 1988, the worst drought since the Dust Bowl. Now, without help from the heavens, 2015 will be the last year before my family will begin to go bankrupt. The severe drought has desolated our once beautiful community so badly that there was simply no water for our crops, and I was forced to make the difficult decision to just let our farm die. It was so bad, in fact, that a few years ago, the bureaucrats in the state capitol signed a piece of legislation that diverts all of the water from the Colorado River away from the Salton Sea. With the swipe of a pen, the government cut our town off from any fresh water. However, I thought I was prepared. Solar electricity, solar hot water, and we even had our own well. Big mistake, because little did we know that the drought was going to hit us so hard. 3 years ago, our well totally dried out. I didn't really panic because we still had a 600-gallon water stockpile that I had saved as an emergency reserve, and I knew it should last us enough until the government or the heavens would have mercy on us, or until we could dig a new well. Until, that is, the fateful night when we learned the hard way that desperation goes beyond any family ties. It happened so fast. I was asleep in bed next to my wife Susan when I heard a loud crash outside the window, and my mom suddenly frantically screaming from outside. And not knowing what was happening, I grabbed my rifle from the closet and charged right into the black night. And what I saw made me freeze in my tracks. My uncle, who was also our neighbor for as long as I can remember, was swinging a garden shovel right at my father's head. He didn't have any family feud or anything like that. He just wanted our water. "Sorry, Rich, I just need your water for my farm or they'll take my house." He was ready to rob his own brother for water. My dad fought back, but his younger brother hit him several times until he ultimately collapsed to the ground. I felt a rush of anger and rage and was ready to shoot him on the spot. Fortunately, my wife called the cops just in time and they got him arrested. My dad survived this incident with only a big scar on the back of his head, and thank God our entire family was safe and okay. But I'll never forget when my 12-year-old son Jeremy came to me that night and asked me, "Is Grandpa going to die?" I immediately burst into tears. It was the most devastating moment of my life. I felt like my world collapsed. I felt powerless because there was nothing I could do to protect the ones I cared for the most. It really made me sick of what we've become. I just couldn't believe that our own family can turn on you like that. I decided right then and there that I'd never put my family in a similar situation again. I don't want to sound preachy about it, but ask yourself, what happens if the drought continues? What are we going to turn into? Are there going to be killings over a sip of water? Humanity is already on the verge of dehumanization due to the hard times that continue to weaken all of us. Listen, the drought so far left unchangeable consequences, and there are no signs that it would get better. Water is rapidly becoming the petroleum of the 21st century, and the current water crisis has unleashed a modern gold rush. The situation has grown so dire that water scarcity is increasingly being recognized as a major threat to national security right alongside terrorism. And the more scarce water gets, more access to it becomes a competition with winners and losers, often with governments picking. Yet how did we get in this life-threatening situation? Don't get me wrong, there's no shortage of water. We have 326 million trillion gallons of it. Always have, always will. But 97% of it is salty and 2% is trapped in ice at the poles. So all of humankind relies on just 1% of that water to survive. While the sources for drinking water haven't changed much over time, the population has exploded, making the amount of fresh water available increasingly scarce. But the problem isn't that just there are more people on Earth using more water, it's also how we're using our water. There's a common misconception that water is in indefinite amounts and everyone has access to it because you can turn a tap. In fact, that's the only time most of us are thinking about it, simply taking water completely for granted. But in fact, water is embedded in everything around us, hidden in the products, services, and processes people buy, use, and do every day. Your morning shower takes 17 gallons. Growing the coffee beans for your cup of joe takes 34 gallons. And every pound of beef we eat takes a staggering 1,800 gallons of water to produce. Before midday, you indirectly guzzled thousands of gallons of water. This water, which often goes unseen and is largely neglected, is called virtual water or indirect water. What gets ignored is that virtual water is as real as the water you drink. And when we run out, we'll find out what the value of water truly is. The bad news is that moment is just around the corner. Now, I can hear your BS radar going off, and I'm sure you're already thinking, there's no way it could be true. Well, up until recently, that could have been only a theory. NASA and top universities have solid proof we are right at the beginning of the biggest drought in at least 1,200 years. A disastrous, decades-long mega drought that could make entire regions of the country nearly uninhabitable, just like it did before throughout history. A UCLA-led study published in the journal Nature Climate Change found that the U.S. hasn't seen a more devastating and severe drought since the start of the scientific record around the year 800. The last comparable, though not as severe, multi-decade mega drought happened in the medieval times of the 1500s, when the U.S. was still largely inhabited by Native American tribes. That extreme drought led to crop failures, famine, and and social disruption. Cities and towns were literally abandoned. It was a demographic catastrophe with no modern comparison that culminated with the native population collapse. And here's the bad part. History has a not-so-funny way of repeating itself. Those who cannot learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Thanks to satellites launched by NASA, we can now understand more accurately and measure this developing invisible crisis, revealing how supplies are shrinking rapidly. From Florida to New York to California, fresh water supplies are running critically low. Lake Mead, the largest reservoir in the U.S., is currently at unprecedented, dangerously low levels, the lowest it has ever been since the Hoover Dam was built in the 1930s, and has been left with an ever-growing white bathtub ring over 100 feet high. Lake Powell, the second largest reservoir in the U.S., is at a historic low as well. Both Lake Mead and Lake Powell are currently filled at only about 1/3 of their total capacity and are in danger of reaching dead pool status. Dead pool is what happens when the water drops so low that the flow of water halts. It just sits there, stuck, stagnant behind the dam. If the two largest reservoirs of the southwestern U.S. hit dead pool, water wouldn't flow to the Glen Canyon and the Hoover Dam. With these dams paralyzed, the system collapses. And that's not all. There are more and more lakes and reservoirs just disappearing all around the U.S. California's largest reservoirs, Lake Shasta and Lake Oroville, are at critically low levels. Add into that mix the vanishing act that the Great Salt Lake has performed in recent years, and the U.S.'s water woes are put in stark relief. Just imagine what will happen if the drought keeps getting worse. It will be down for the count, and sadly, there will be no water left to splash on our face to help recovery. And it's not just happening in the U.S. Water is disappearing everywhere. The entire American continent is on the ropes. We are on our way to desertification. All the Great Lakes, including Superior, Michigan, and Ontario, are at historically low levels and are going down quickly. The mighty Colorado River, the pulsing lifeblood for more than 42 million people, is in critical condition and has already lost a shocking 65 cubic kilometers of water, or roughly the equivalent of 2 full Lake Meads, and no longer reaches the sea. And this is just the beginning. While water levels in the major reservoirs and rivers are dropping alarmingly, there's another invisible threat also emerging, and that's the disappearance of groundwater. All across the U.S., communities, farmers, and industry are pumping irreplaceable groundwater to counter the drought at a dangerous rate. Groundwater comes from aquifers, sponge-like gravel and sand-filled underground reservoirs that store vast volumes of ancient rainwater. These hidden, vital water reserves are currently disappearing at 7 times the rate at which the water in Lake Powell is disappearing, bringing back Dust Bowl-style storms. The Central Valley Aquifer in California is in drastic decline due to vampiric overconsumption and has lost about 10 cubic miles of water in just 4 years, an amount that is nearly 1.4 times the full capacity of Lake Mead. A recent Kansas University study said that if farmers in Kansas keep irrigating at present rates, 69% of the Ogallala Aquifer will be gone in a blink, and a major crisis in the years ahead is virtually guaranteed. It's a slow-motion train wreck, because most of these aquifers cannot recharge anymore, and once this fossil water is gone, it's gone forever, and then the real crisis begins. When the Dust Bowl overtook the Great Plains in the 1930s, the Ogallala Aquifer hasn't been yet discovered, and the results were devastating: death, famine, and for the most, fortunate relocation. We heard all about these recent tragedies just a few years ago. The 2012 drought was raging at full throttle, and nearly 2/3 of the continental U.S. was covered by dryness. Stories of small towns literally running out of water made headlines. People were showering at gyms, eating on paper plates, collecting rainwater to flush the toilet. You know, it's one thing not to have Wi-Fi everywhere you go. It's a whole other thing if you've got no water to drink for your basic basic needs. The 2012 drought has become a vivid warning of what water scarcity could soon mean for all of us. For years, we've been warned that Dust Bowl conditions would be returning to this country. And as this drought continues to stretch on, we can now see it slowly happening all around us. Most people don't realize that things are going to get worse than this. Much worse. The United States is on the verge of a national crisis that could mean the end of clean, cheap water. Hundreds of cities and towns are at risk of sudden and severe shortages, either because the available water is not safe to drink or because there simply is not enough of it. When wells run dry, people can't get enough to drink, cook, wash, or grow crops. The economy feels the effect, existing tensions flare up, and conflicts will become inevitable. There's a quote, "Whiskey is for drinking, but water is for fighting over." We should brace for water wars all over the American continent. There is a historic link between drought and war. In recent years, the number and types of conflicts breaking out over water have grown enormously. Yemen, Syria, and Darfur are just a few examples of countries where drought has contributed to the outbreak of civil wars. These conflicts have claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. Scientists proved water scarcity is already increasing the risk of wars breaking out across the world, as 1 in 4 conflicts coincided with climatic calamities. What are we going to do once all the water is gone? Well, I immediately began researching every single alternative that I could find, because clearly relying on the government for security and comfort of my family just was not an option anymore. Not only is our ailing water infrastructure amid the country's worst crisis in decades, but they're also introducing historic sucker punch water cuts, often unjustly targeting only the marginalized communities. First, I considered drilling a new well, and I looked pretty much into this option. However, I found out that well drillers are working overtime, and farmers and homeowners short of water now must wait in line more than a year for their new wells. Moreover, wells that used to strike water at 500 feet deep must now be drilled down 1,000 feet or more at a cost of more than $300,000 for a single well. Money I certainly didn't have lying around, and according to scientists, they will all dry out eventually. Next, I considered filtering water, but maybe you heard that we have a major toxic chemicals and water problem. And we've been drinking, bathing, and cooking with water containing unsafe levels of chemicals such as arsenic, lead, copper, disinfection byproducts, and even radioactive mining substances. So the idea of filtering water is becoming an impossible mission. So I had only one option. If I wanted to make sure my family never goes through such an experience again, and to get us independent forever, I had to create my own solution. Something that would give me and my family water on demand without the dangers of stockpiling and logistic nightmare of digging a new well every summer. Something that would be reliable both in comfort of our home or, if God forbid, we had to bug out and leave everything behind to save our lives. So I started looking into every other solution that could bring me the security for my family. Many sleepless nights passed, and I was getting tired of surfing the internet for a simple solution. Yet one day, Susan, my wife, reminded me about my brother-in-law Tim and his research in the military sector. So I gave him a call. I remembered him telling me how, when he was on the battlefield, military troops in some of the toughest field conditions in the world were able to source drinking water out of thin air. That very moment, I realized the answer I was looking for was right in front of my eyes. I later found out that the innovative system he told me about was invented by a retired Army Ranger turned water farmer as a portable water generator which extracts water from the air. This device is being used with great success in the military sector by armed forces from 7 countries, including the United States, India, France, and Mexico to produce drinking water in conflict zones, in the hottest and driest of environments, mostly in the desert. The device is based on a simple condensation principle. It sucks in humid air and cools it down, much like an air conditioner, but a lot more efficient, and transforms it into drinkable water. That's the real secret. What you may not realize is just how efficient such a simple, innovative system is, as it eliminates the need of buying expensive bottled water or going through the hassle of drilling a new well. The water is purified, and the unique system can produce up to 60 gallons of clean, fresh water a day, and you won't have to worry about all the nasty chemicals ever again. The fundamentals are so easy, and if properly applied, you can have a virtually unlimited water supply anywhere, even if you live in the desert. That was the solution to my problem. However, I found out that the technology to extract water from the air is not new, and some greedy corporations got their hands on it and are selling these devices to families for close to a small fortune. So while this option was off the table, I knew there had to be a solution out there. So I began spending every waking hour thinking of the best way to build this myself. I had a pretty good idea of the science behind it, but what I didn't know exactly is how to capture that moisture from the air or easily convert it to fresh, clean, drinkable water. So I called my friend Jason Mitchell, who was working for an air conditioning company. I told him what it was that I was trying to accomplish. I shared the humiliating circumstances behind why this was so important to me, and asked him if he would help me draft the blueprints for this simple water generator. Fortunately, Jason is a pretty good guy and a family man himself, and as an engineer, he's also the kind of person who loves a hard problem to solve. So every day after work, Jason and I got together and worked on this project. We both knew that whatever we came up with had to be incredibly cheap to construct. Also, I was adamant that our system needs to be very easy to build, so that if God forbid something was to happen to me, my wife or 12-year-old son Jeremy could make one without any problem whatsoever. The first prototypes we made were either too expensive or too complicated. We had some heated arguments, mainly because of me being really stubborn. I needed the device to be cheap and simple. But finally, after more than 2 months and more than 7 discarded variations, we finally came up with a prototype that seemed to be what we were looking for. The design was brilliant. We managed to build it for around $200 worth of materials from Home Depot. However, I'm sure we could have found the parts at a junkyard for free if we weren't in a rush. But the most important thing is that it was incredibly simple to put together. You simply had to place the components in the correct position, and because of the ingenious way the device was designed, it gave us up to 30 gallons of the purest water per day, plus the quality of this water is far better than drinking regulations, and it costs less to make than keeping your TV powered. But that got me thinking, why pay any money for water at all? Why not go off-grid? So I turned again to Jason for help. We went back to work, and a month later, we'd solved it. Jason created a pro-grade, portable, off-grid power source for my self-contained home oasis. It was perfect. I mean, for just a few extra bucks, my little home water plant was running on 100% green electricity. Even more, the system was actually incredibly easy to use, even if you're terrible at building stuff and have trouble plugging in a DVD player to your TV. The next step was to test it out and see if it really worked as well as we thought it would. So we started the device, and I stood watching in complete amazement. The system immediately went to work, sucking moisture from the air with lightning speed, and because of the brilliant design Jason had come up with, it was providing a steady, robust supply of fresh, pure water on demand. I could hardly contain my excitement of what we had accomplished, of not having all the healthy, pure water we could drink, but also the water insurance that this would give us should disaster hit. In truth, I almost couldn't believe how simple all of this was. It ran perfectly. Me and my family was having a virtually non-stop supply of fresh water that we could use for free day in and day out. And all it had taken me was about 1 hour of my time and about $200 in initial cost. And my family was safe and independent. I love the fact that I was teaching my son such a great lesson about not being dependent on the government or any corporations for his safety and well-being. And I felt so relieved to know that my family would always grow up in a warm, safe, and comfortable home. Well, before long, my friends and family members were begging to know my secret. And when I showed them the simple portable water generator that I created, a lot of them had a hard time believing something so small could be creating water on demand. But after I'd given them the simple building instructions that Jason and I had come up with, and they followed them, and they created their own endless water supply in about the time it takes to assemble an IKEA chair. They became believers fast. And the results were the same over and over. An abundance of clean, fresh water for their family. They loved knowing they would never have to rely on anyone or anything for their number one need in life, even if a disaster turned the outside world upside down. Soon, my friends were telling their friends about my little miniature home oasis until finally, the number of phone calls and emails from people asking me to share the blueprints with them became so overwhelming. My wife had put her foot down and told me I had to find a better way to share this life-saving knowledge with the world. So I went to work writing out the blueprints, the materials list, and creating a follow-along video guide showing the construction process in simple steps. And that's how the Aqua Tower was born. It's the only proven exclusive step-by-step guide showing you exactly how to create your own home oasis today and how to survive any tough century-long drought. As you already know, this system was specifically created so that anyone with one hand can do it. As long as you understand how to turn a screwdriver, play a video, and can somewhat speak English, you can set up this system with no problem. In fact, you'll be shocked by how few steps there actually are, and how short the list of materials you need to build this is. You'll see exactly what those steps are, along with a full materials list that will help you build the system from start to finish. Even though it wasn't cheap for me to conceive this system, I think it's extremely valuable. We wrote and recorded these easy step-by-step, take-you-by-the-hand instructions so you can provide clean, fresh water for your family, no matter the scenario. Just look at what you'll receive today inside the Aqua Tower system. How this simple method that can pull moisture out of thin air, filter it, and turn it into an unlimited supply of pure drinking water with the press of a button. And you'll discover just how incredibly easy it is to put it together for less than $200 in total cost and in under 1 hour of your time. Not only will you have an automated supply of the freshest, cleanest water you've ever tasted for pennies on the dollar, yet this will become liquid gold in the middle of any disaster situation. What's more, because the Aqua Tower is very light and portable, it makes for one of the best emergency water sources you could ever hope for. Enjoy the sense of security that comes with having gallons of purified water on demand, even in an emergency. And forget about the worry of storage space, and best of all, it generates free water day in and day out, so you can slash your water bill by 30, 60, even 90% and save thousands a year. That's just a glimpse of what the Aqua Tower will do for you. To date, more than 57,347 families have used this exact same system to permanently ditch their water suppliers. So with all of that being said, I want you to pause and think about this for a second. How good will it be to never have to worry every time you pour yourself a glass of water? To never have to feel the stress of not knowing what hidden chemicals you and your family drink, bathe, or cook with. To never care about how much you spend on water, no matter how much the prices go through the roof. And no, you'll never have to spend a single dime to companies that could care less about your family's safety and well-being. How happy are you going to be when you join the ranks of the 57,347 347 other freedom fighters who have already decided that they're fed up with being dependent on others for the safety of their families. In just 1 hour from now, you can have the only endless water supply you'll ever need and the power to survive and thrive through any disaster. And you'll save hundreds of dollars each month and thousands each year. This is my promise to you. If you use the over-the-shoulder video guides, the step-by-step blueprints, the illustrated instructions, and the materials cheat sheet I'm giving you, you will create a device that will deliver an abundance of clean, fresh water, no matter if you live in the desert or any dry zone. And given all of that, how much is it worth to you to literally have an unlimited water supply for your family? Well, first of all, let me just be clear about it. There is no system like this available anywhere in the world. The Aqua Tower is the sum of considerable expertise in this field and the contribution of a brilliant engineer. And beyond all the technical innovations that have gone into making this simple and easy to use system, you also need to understand that this is about more than just water. It's about keeping your family safe. The reason I'm so passionate about getting the Aqua Tower into your hands is that I never want you to go through what I went through. I want to give you the opportunity today to make sure that your home is filled with warmth and love, especially when you can do it all without ever having to spend another dime to the same corporations who are getting rich off your family's financial struggles. Ultimately, this is about taking action today. So I'm not going to ask you to invest $1,000 for this secret, even though I know it's worth at least that. It won't cost you $500 either. That's the amount you'd probably spend on a fancy water generator at the greedy retailers. I want to let as many people as possible in and help them break free from the ropes and chains of the government and corporations. That's why if you act right now and only on this page, I'll let you have the Aqua Tower system, including the manual, the schematics, the parts list, and all the step-by-step video guides for a single payment of only $39.69. But if you want to take advantage of this rare discount, you must take action by clicking the big Buy Now button directly below. I can't guarantee that I can keep this price for longer, especially since we're giving away unlimited email support. So don't get mad if you come here in a few days and see that the price has gone up. And really, the price doesn't even matter. That's because you're covered by our no questions asked money back guarantee for a full 60 days. It's simple. Get the course today and put it to the test. See how easy it is to have clean, pure water for as long as you live with the Aqua Tower. Feel the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're fully protected from any type of disaster. And see what it's like to be truly independent with this virtually unlimited water source in less than 30 minutes from right now. You have 60 days to decide whether this was a good investment for you or not. And if you're less than thrilled with how much you're saving on water, just write us a short email at the address you'll find in the members area and we'll give you an immediate refund, even if it's the 23rd hour of the 59th day. The Aqua Tower will help you generate your own water, survive and thrive no matter how big the next drought will be. You won't need space-filling water stockpiles or rain collecting, and it's so portable you can even take it with you on your trips. Instead of paying thousands of dollars per year on bottled water or on expensive water generators, you can pocket the savings and spend it on more important things. You're finally free and independent, no longer at the mercy of greedy corporations and our government. Now you have the chance to join all of us in the fight to take back our water freedom. And you have a full 60 days to try before you buy. Right now you're at a crossroads that's going to affect not just your bank account, but your happiness, your security, and the safety of your family for years to come. And the way I see it is, 3 paths lie ahead of you. Now, I know you could just walk away and chance it that you'll never have to one day be caught without clean drinking water. Keep living with the fear that your kid will not be poisoned by this so-called water that comes out of the tap these days. Keep hoping for the best and not be prepared for the worst. And pray to Almighty God that you don't have to live through all the disasters that experts predict are just around the corner. Keep buying bottled water for your family, but for how long? The prices are are already going through the roof, and sooner than you'll realize, you're going to need to remortgage just to quench your family's thirst. Now, you could try digging a well, that's if you can afford the $12,000 or more for drilling and installation costs, or even try your luck with rain harvesting. Of course, there's a second path, and that is to take what you've learned today and try to figure out your own system for creating real water for your family. Honestly, you can try this, but why on earth would you put the life of your family on the line? It took our team a lot of time, effort, energy, and work to put together the Aqua Tower system, to test it, and make sure that even non-technical folks could follow it and use it. And it's way too easy to mess this up and spend a lot of money while you're experimenting. And we all know how dangerous that is. You might end up with a drinking source full of lead, fluoride, or other cancer-causing substances like thallium. If you really want to be self-sufficient and not at the mercy of FEMA and the corporations, then you should seriously consider path number 3. Let me take all of the risk for you. Do what over 57,347 families have already done. Grab your copy of the Aqua Tower system. See how fun it is to have all the water you need for you and your family in shockingly little time. And with our generous 60-day guarantee, there's really no way you can lose. Just click the orange Buy Now button that you see below right now. You'll be brought right to our secure order page, and you'll be able to grab your copy of the Aqua Tower system and all the bonuses at a whopping discount right away. So you need to act fast if you don't want to miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime. When the world outside will go crazy for a drop of water, your family will have enough to drink, for cooking, or even bathing and washing clothes. The bottom line is you need to get in fast while you can. Get your hands on this proven way to ensure your everyday health and survival. Still here? No worries. Look, I know that sometimes it can be scary to take that first step, and you probably have a few questions. So to help you feel fully confident in the investment that you're about to make, let me take a minute or two to go ahead and answer some of the most common questions that I get asked right now. How does the Aqua Tower work? The device is based on a simple condensation principle. It sucks in humid air and cools it down, much like an air conditioner, but a lot more efficient, and transforms it into drinkable water. The water is purified, and the unique system can produce up to 60 gallons of clean, fresh water a day. It's a unique concept that can be used in every home or emergency situation. Question: what's maintenance like? Answer: there's no maintenance whatsoever because the device is a one-time build. Question: is the Aqua Tower hard to make work? Nope. When Jason was helping me to come up with the designs, I was adamant that this be incredibly simple to build. There's very little physical labor, so even the elderly or those with a bad back or other ailment should have no problem putting everything together. As a result, there are just a small handful of materials required. If you're still feeling nervous, remember that the step-by-step illustrated manual is designed with you in mind. Simply follow each step and you'll be there in no time. It's really self-explanatory. What's included again? Answer: inside, you'll get my comprehensive guide showing you exactly how to create your own home oasis today and how to survive any tough century-long drought. I made this manual with an over-the-shoulder approach, so it's basically like I'm there in the room helping you build it. You'll also get the blueprints, full-color, step-by-step directions, and the full materials list. Plus, your investment today will come with unlimited support. This means you can email me anytime you have a question, and I'll promptly reply. Question: is there a guarantee? Answer: yes. Once you place your order, you have a full 60 days to check out the manual, blueprints, and instructions. Just follow along, and once you start building your system, we'll be up and running in around 3 hours. If at any point you're unsatisfied or you change your mind about this, just send me an email and I'll refund your entire investment, no questions asked. Question: I'm ready. How do I get started? Answer: simply click on the Buy Now button you see below, and then you'll be taken to my 100% secure checkout page where you'll enter your order information. After you've completed your order, you'll have access to my special members-only area. From there, you can instantly download everything. Remember, you have a full 60-day money-back guarantee here, along with unlimited support. So go ahead and seize your opportunity now by clicking the orange Add to Cart button below.